Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Cherie Ariano with the Ascension Sessions and Divine Light Quantum Healing. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm really excited. I have a great show for you guys tonight. It's Thursday, July 28th, and we have so much to talk about tonight. It's been wonderful getting to know our guest tonight, and we have so much excitement for tonight's show because these are topics that I haven't really covered yet on this show. So I'm so glad you all are here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to take a quick moment to say that I took a few months off and I'm back. I'm going to try to bring you guys regular content again. There's so much happening in the world as we enter these new healing energies and new light codes and new everything that's coming down to earth over the next many months. So I feel very called and very inspired to bring you this timely and important content. So if you're new to my channel, thank you for watching. Please go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and you guys can put questions in the live chat. Sabina has agreed to answer any questions that you have tonight. So don't be shy. Please speak up and let us know if you have any questions. So without further ado, I am going to tell you guys a little bit about Sabine, and then we will pull her onto the show because we have so much to cover. So Sabine Messner is a visionary futurist and a 5D embodiment mentor, igniting awakening leaders to be in business with their sacred calling, combining powerful epigenetic human design and gene keys awareness with precisely aligned expert positioning guidance. Her soul purpose branding process transforms her clients from the inside out into divinely inspired entrepreneurial stewards of the new earth. A pioneering, award-winning Wired Online magazine art director and former corporate marketing VP, Sabine blends 30 plus years in arts and visual communication with her extensive studies of indigenous energy modalities and quantum healing. She balances her advanced Seer skills with her highly personalized, heart-centered guidance and creative zest. Sabine is known for activating her clients' highest future potential, saving them years of trials and detours. Her work is said to be equally enlightening as it is down to earth. That's why one of her greatest joys is bringing people together in sacred, aligned communion for the highest good. Her international soul purpose wealth retreats and annual council gatherings are inner and outer adventures in consciousness, shifting and uplifting soul families into higher destinies. I wanted to say densities. Sabine is a certified human design consultant and holds an MA in visual communication from the Berlin University of the Arts. She is the founder of Soul Purpose Branding and Soul Purpose Wealth. Her latest book collaborations are Awakening Starseeds Volume 3, Dreaming into the Future, and Stop Overworking and Start Overflowing, 25 Ways to Transform Your Life Using Human Design. You can start your co-creation journey with her at soulpurposewealth.com/Cherie. That would be me. And we will talk more about that later. But for now, I just want to say welcome, Sabina, and also want to say hello to everyone in the chat room. So we have Dragon Rose. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. And Anne, Diamond Anne, awesome to see you and awesome to have you in here. Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. And now that we have Sabina back, I will bring her on the show.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Sabina. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am overjoyed to be first and foremost on your Ascension Sessions interview, but also to be sort of a catalyst, to reactivate the 2022 conversation. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I had to bolt out real quick and to take care of my four-legged. He's been sleeping all day and now he's like hanging from, the ceiling fan.
Well, there's been I feel like sleep. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think sleep disturbances are happening a lot right now. People are reporting to me that, I got 8 hours of sleep and I woke up exhausted, feeling tired. And I experienced that as well last night and the night before. So there's definitely a lot of energies coming in right now.
There is so much happening and shifting. Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. So we have like the most amazing content prepared for you guys, right? To talk about.
Yes, and everyone, this has been such a long time coming. I met Sabine last year, right around this time at Mount Shasta at the Gathering of Light conference. And Anne, you were there. I met you as well. She's in the chat room right now. So this is kind of a sacred reunion. And, we had been talking about bringing her on the show for a while now. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for being with us tonight and sharing your beautiful wisdom.
Oh, it's my honor. It's my privilege.
Great. So,
dive in?
Well, I'm going to dive in. So, yes, she was at Mount Shasta this year, but I was not, Linda. So thank you for that question. So, Sabine can talk about a lot of different things. Tonight, we're going to touch on human design and what that means. We're going to talk about ascension timelines, moving from 3D to 4D to 5D and beyond. We're going to talk about her business, soul purpose branding, and soul purpose wealth. And we can, even talk about quantum healing if that comes into the mix. So there's a lot to talk about. And Sabine, I was just wondering if initially you wouldn't mind sharing with people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what brought you onto this journey, because it's such a specific journey.
It's lovely to see you here. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much, darling, for being with me here. Yeah, so a little bit about my story, and I do have, if we have towards the end a little time, I have some wonderful, wonderful slides also as well. But basically, I grew up in the mid-60s in the Black Forest of Germany. So if you have ever seen the movie The Gladiator, this is where the Roman Empire was finding its doom. There's so much ancient history in the Black Forest, lots of Celtic runes, and I had, truly the most magical, dreamlike childhood, really kind of roaming around by myself in the forest, fear-free. Imagine that, everybody, if you're a parent, you know what it's like, having to chauffeur your children around. And we still had, that childhood of wilderness and freedom and, being gone all day and being out in nature, out on the farm, helping also my grandparents. And my father was an inventor. And he was, the more I've studied later on his cosmology, the more I really saw that he was a cosmic alchemist. He had actually a number of patents. One of them was in the 70s during the oil crisis, a car engine that ran on 2/3 of water and 1/3 of gasoline. He also taught me when I was 6 years young, the perpetuum mobile. It's basically a motor that you only have to ignite once, and then it keeps propelling itself. So he was really, tapping into kind of Tesla principles, quantum principles, and most certainly free energy. Meanwhile, he was also inventing, engines, to, clean ocean liners and high pressure pumps. And he was working with crystal sand and water and, oh my gosh. So I learned welding right around that time, between 6 and 8 years. And I grew up in his laboratory. And growing up in that laboratory, as well as out in the magical, mystical gardens, really, was sparking my imagination. And I remember really kind of connecting with my father's visions, and they were blending with my fantasies, as a child. So this was really, truly the world that I grew up in. However, it was very, very abruptly sort of ripped from me, in a sense, when he passed away due to a brain tumor in the right hemisphere. And we're actually going to talk about the right hemisphere and the importance of the right hemisphere, which is commonly known by allopathic medicine people. I shouldn't be calling medicine people, but you know what I'm saying, by allopathic medicine as junk DNA, right? The right hemisphere is actually the center of your imagination. This is where we're connecting with our multidimensionality. This is also the center of language, dreams, fantasies, all of the good stuff that makes us actually happy is in the right hemisphere, right? And that connects us to the creator origins. And he had a brain tumor and died of the consequences of this brain tumor while he was in coma. And now fast forward, I was about 17 when that happened. I witnessed something absolutely astounding, because I had this deep, deep, deep soul connection, and I was absolutely devastated. I didn't want to have him, depart, right? I was just kind of, hovering all over him and watching him. And what do you know? I'm watching his soul ascend. I literally saw and witnessed how his soul left his body, went across the room, went to a cross that happened to have been on the wall. And then from there, he went even higher up. And I actually, a part of my soul, connected with him, went with him. And in a sense, there was a soul splintering going on. I retrieved later on my soul that, ascended with him. But I mean, that is when I became on the spot a multidimensional soul seer. Having said that, I've also had as a child a lot of, very, very, sort of metaphysical experiences as well. But this really was the moment when I really was switching from sort of like the personality the personality based life to a soul based life. And I made a very, very powerful pledge at that funeral when his coffin went into the ground. And I pledged that I would live a life in which I could die any day, knowing that I had fulfilled my highest soul's purpose. Only a 17-year-old puberty riddled, young girl can make a pledge like that, because by God, I had no idea how powerful of a kind of, crucible that became for me. But I have to also, now say that I'm very, very grateful to my courageous younger versions for having had such an audacity to live so boldly and so in alignment with my soul. And essentially, because I made that pledge, I, became an artist, and I always followed my heart. And I always had out of this world careers and experiences, and to this day really help other people also to create these otherworldly, out of this world kind of manifestations that are truly based on their soul. And it's not so much like, like the manifestation, you can have what you want. That's all good and well. But what I'm really much more intrigued with and I'm all about is also those challenges, those soul hurdles, that we inevitably have to overcome when we really, really want to bring more of our soul essence into our everyday life. So that's a little bit of my story.
What a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Wow, quite a journey that you went on with your grandfather. I mean, how blessed you were to witness that and to be a part of that.
It was my father, actually, not my grandfather.
Oh, your father. Oh, I'm sorry. I understood grandfather. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. I mean, but what a story, because what an awakening. Oh, sorry. What did you say?
Yes, I also want to honor my mother. She is still alive, and she's equally cosmic and equally wise. It's just she's really been sort of like the wisdom guide for me. They were both really phenomenal souls, truly also representatives of the Aquarian age. Come to find out, both were born, during the Second World War, so their childhood was, actually really horrid. And yet they had so much, joy for life. Because they were children, and maybe because they grew up not so much in the cities, where you are much more sort of affected by it, but on the countryside. I can only say that the level and the quality of my soul fulfillment is directly related to my elders, my parents, who really, they're both air signs, and they didn't even, may have not even realized how much they have gifted me with their wisdom. And to bring that forth also, in our work, like what you do, Shiri, like with our clients, to pass the wisdom on. It's such an important thing, to do, especially now.
Yes. Well, that's such a beautiful story. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I could visualize it when you were sharing it, so it's really powerful. And it feels like your first, maybe not your first, but a definitely big awakening in your journey that acted as kind of a catalyst to, have you pledge that, you're going to make sure that you help people find their soul's purpose in this lifetime. So that's a very big event that kind of led you on your path. So that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, it was a big event. Yeah. Unfortunate one, but definitely a life-changing one.
Thank you. By the way, I see all of your comments. I don't know right now how to type, but I do see your comments, and I thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Let me put some of these comments up to share all the beautiful comments, because we've got people on the show from YouTube as well as Facebook, so you can't see each other's comments. So I will periodically share all of the different comments coming in.
Beautiful.
So now we have Ann Diamond in the chat room, and we also have Ann Ross. And I apologize because earlier I was confusing the two. Ann Diamond is the one who was in Mount Shasta when we met in Mount Shasta. So we met in Mount Shasta as well. So welcome, Ann Diamond. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so moving right along, I would love to hop into the topic of Ascension timelines. The few times we've gotten together in person, I could clearly see that you are a timeline keeper. Like, that's a huge part of your soul's journey. And, we talk about Ascension a lot on this show, and we love hearing everyone's different perspective and opinions about what Ascension means to them. And, some people have simplified it into like, okay, we're in the third dimension, we're going up into the fifth dimension, and, that's Ascension. But like, I read the chapter that you wrote for Awakening Starseeds, Volume 3, and you so eloquently broke down what it feels like to be in the third, what it feels like to be in the fourth, what it feels like to be in the fifth. And I just love that so much. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that with everyone tonight.
I would love to share, because that to me is right now the most important thing, because we're really out of the old paradigm. So when we're really, diving into this conversation of Ascension, how I see it in my sort of, from my perspective, through my lens with my multidimensional soul sight, is that I see this clockwork, right, of 260,000 years, with 260,000 year, 26,000 year wheels inside of this big clockwork. Can you picture it like an old watch with wheels?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
with gears.
Like And this is an entire cosmology, that had a particular purpose and had a particular evolution. And actually, that clockwork brings us back to the last version of Atlantis, so 260,000 years, according to the Mayan cosmologists, and I've studied a lot with Mayan timekeepers, and they are looking at the eternal now, where the past, the present, and the future is all connected. It's all essentially here now, and so we're we're exiting this clockwork now, and we are in a transitory phase. And there is a whole new kind of sort of not just world, but cosmology awaiting. However, this is not set in stone yet. It has certain parameters already, but it depends on us, the transitory generations that have signed up. It is such an important, job for us right now to see it all the way through, and to not be caught up in the deceptions and the lies of especially the fourth dimension, which is the mind, the mind, I don't want to say the F word, but you know what I'm saying. The mind manipulations.
The mental programming.
So
we can say that, right?
We need to kind of really, navigate through this maze so that we can, with our intentions, sort of forecast, if you so will, foretell already the world that we wish to experience, the future that we wish to reside in, that we also wish for our children's and their children's children. So I actually have a slide that really illustrates this departure from the old paradigm. You may call it the patriarchy, but it's much older than 2,000 or 3,000, 5,000 years. Like I said, it's a massive platform. So I don't know if you can share the screen. Awesome.
Yes.
Beautiful. Awesome. So here we have the full screen. So this is essentially when we're talking about the 3D versus 5D timeline, what we're really seeing. We all started here at the bottom with one and the same Earth. And now we're actually starting to see a severing, a separation between literally people living almost like on different planets, on different, they think differently, they see the reality differently. And this divide can literally go across, the family table, the dining room table. It can go literally, a dimensional divide can literally go across your master king mattress. It can literally divide your spouse and you, because it's not like you have different opinions. That was the past. We could have actually arguments, we could debate, we could say, hey, I see it differently. And now it's almost like we can't even have a healthy argument, because it's almost like we live truly on different planets. And there's even, this year in Shasta, we even talked about that there are two different suns. There is a yellow sun, and then there is this white metallic sun. And some people are actually seeing the two suns. When they're sun gazing, they can actually see the two suns. And you can actually see, when you go down the shopping aisle in your grocery store, you can literally see, wow, there's an entire family that is in that 3D matrix, and they're shopping right next to me, they're checking out right behind me, right? And then here I am, and I have a whole different experience. I go into the grocery store, ordering completely different foods, et cetera. So it is still this coexistence. And for those who remember the Celestine Prophecy movie series, which I absolutely loved, how it actually sort of like already kind of prepared us for this time where all of a sudden, for people that are on that higher vibrational frequency level, windows are open, doors open, right? They can step through almost like a time veil and all of a sudden be truly in a different space. You can also create inside of your apartment or inside of your home such a little 5D bubble. And I really love for you guys to imagine it like this is something that we're not doing alone, right? We're not doing this as individuals, but first of all, doing it as a awakening collective. But even more importantly, as we are bringing higher dimensional frequencies and energies through our body vehicle into our body and then out through, for example, the sole of our foot. As we're stepping onto the soil, we are also waking up Gaia, and vice versa. When we go back into the redwoods or we swim with the dolphins or the whales, Gaia and all of the sentient beings are waking us up. So we're really in a synchronistic, coordinated, sort of dance. Stargates that have been absolutely shut down, inverted, brutalized, etc., etc. I mean, atrocities have been done to our great mother, to Mother Earth, that are really unspeakable, not to mention all of the crimes against humanity that many of you are keenly aware, and at the same time, her meridians, her chakra systems, and even more importantly, her inner and outer stargates are also slowly but surely being reactivated. So as this is ongoing, we're literally sort of having to continue to work a little bit in between the worlds. And this is where we're talking about later on the fourth dimension. But I do want to also add one more very, very important notion, because we have to, on a daily basis, continue to navigate this somewhat also challenging and sometimes even a bit treacherous kind of in between space. Because on the 3D timeline, and by the way, when I'm speaking about the vibration, this is not coming from arrogance. This is absolutely, it has nothing to do with us, the ones that are on that ascension bridge, essentially feeling better than others. That's not at all the case. It takes an incredible amount of courage and willingness, and also acceptance of a lot of, things that other people maybe just sort of putting to the side or not wanting to deal with, right? To be able to actually withhold these tectonic challenges. But this is really what I want to also really sort of as a shortcut tell everyone. On the 3D Earth, the question will always be a collective. Who are we? And we're being told who we are. We're told what to think. And we're currently also
you still
told.
Want the, Do you want the graphic back up? Excuse me. Would you like the graphic back up? Okay.
Oh, yes, that would be awesome. Yes, I have some text here that is who we are, where are we. It's all that synthetic stuff. That's synthetic stuff. Versus on the 5D, it's really about individuation. So the difference is, collectivism versus, soul-based individuation. Another way that we can kind of also look at it is like synthetic versus organic, or carbon cyborgs versus, and when I say Christ humans, I mean crystalline humans. So the Christ consciousness is actually a higher vibrational consciousness. So these are different ways to look at the ascension timeline, because what it really means to be human is to bring light into the body. So the body is actually a manifestation vessel for the light. And this is also how we're activating our light body, our Merkaba. Shri, do you want me to keep going a little bit more or go back?
Yeah, I mean, share as much as you want on this topic. I think it's really interesting when you showed the graphic in the beginning and you said, like, before we could kind of, see eye to eye, and now we can't. Like, it could be a divide in your bed or in your home. And we were just talking about that the other day, how, 15, 20 years ago, a Republican and a Democrat could sit down at dinner table and share notes or share different talking points, but still be in harmony and coexist peacefully. And it seems like you can't do that anymore, because the divide has gotten so great. It's like the Grand Canyon now. So that just brought back what we were talking about. Like, it's just, and it doesn't only relate to politics. I'm just using that as an example, but I do feel like the divide is greater.
I completely agree. And the divide, I mean, whether it's climate, what, like even the divide on these topics that I'm touching on, like where are we, who are we, all of the big questions that have to come up. Imagine we're going out of the Aquarian age, out of this entire 260,000 year cycle into something new. We have to ask these big metaphysical questions, and there is no more common ground because of the bifurcation of our genealogy. We're literally writing right now our own story, or it is being written for us. And that is already the first big takeaway. Either you are the director right now of your story, or your story is already written for you. There isn't right now any middle ground, because we don't go to heaven, we don't go to those higher, golden age 5D earth plane places at wholesale level. This is between you, your higher soul, your higher self, and God. That's it. And so in a sense, the ascension is actually an incorrect term, because we should be actually talking about ascension, because it is an ascension from within. So it's an ascension. And so the questions that are, circling in our community right now is like, okay, are we in Earth School, right? Is this, was there a fall and from grace? And are we kind of sort of, sort of resurrecting ourselves, right? Do we live in a hologram simulation, right? I mean, we can go down lots of rabbit holes with the black cube and Saturn and on and on and on. Do we live on a prison planet? I mean, we have God knows how many satellites. I believe there's 6G that's already in certain places, being installed. All of us without our conscious consent, or certainly for most of us, not our consent, not the consent of other inhabitants of this planet, such as bees and animals and plants and what have you. This is an unbelievable modification of our entire environment. This is of such colossal nature, and here we are asking these big questions, and nobody can get along with anybody else. We don't see eye to eye, because the foundation of how we are perceiving, the perception is so completely different based on the timeline that we're on. Or are we part of a galactic experiment? I mean, we know that there are different versions. We've had different civilizations that were seeded and harvested, and then reseeded and harvested. Who knows what's going on? Truly, I am not here on this interview to say that I have all of the answers, but I love asking good questions. And I do believe that part of these answers have a lot to do with our understanding, how we're seeing the world, right? I think there's two.
It's a big question. I mean, there's so many theories out there right now, and I just heard one the other day that kind of blew my mind open. And I was like, wow, if that's true, then everything I've learned is completely a lie. It's false. And, I don't want to get it. So there's this whole, well, you've heard of like the flat earth theory, right?
Yeah.
That's not news. But if you take that a step further, what I gleaned from this content that I was looking into was that not only are we on a flat earth, but we live inside of a dome. So the sky is a dome, and that the North Pole and Antarctica, there's this giant ice wall, okay? Like miles thick, kind of like in Game of Thrones, where they had the ice wall that they had to cross over. And that we live kind of in this snow globe, if you will. And then next to us, on the other side of this massive ice wall, there's another land, and it could be named Mars or Jupiter or Asgard or Atlantis, right? And so if you imagine a petri dish that's like a circle, right? And inside, you look inside this dish with a microscope, you see like a bunch of cells, like little tiny round circles everywhere. Well, just imagine that on this flat earth, it could be a circle or whatever shape, but there's like a bunch of little circles everywhere, just like if you were to look into that petri dish, and each circle is another dome or another land or another reality. And so there could be, Asgard is on the other side of our 6 mile thick frozen wall that we can't penetrate. But some of the older civilizations have the technology to come into Earth, and they came in during the time of the Great Pyramids and before, and they came in and posed as gods, knowing that they are not gods, but because of where we were in our development, we believed them, and they are called the guardians. So it's like, it was so wild, because I was like, okay, if that's true, what are stars? What are nebulas? What are, everything we've been taught, but it really like was just fun to kind of chew on for a couple of days, because I don't necessarily believe it, but they do have the technology to make us believe whatever they want. Television, as you said in your book.
Television, yes.
Television. Yeah.
Thank you so much for you did a beautiful job describing this. I spent quite some time looking into that as well. I actually believe that I have a piece of the firmament. It's Libyan tektite, and it's like literally, glass, but not real glass. So I think that how we can help ourselves as we are expanding, and I have some slides to really show this expansion from the left hemisphere through the pituitary gland, which is the bridge back into the right hemisphere. And this is actually kind of balancing, it's like we need to balance between the logic and the right hemisphere, because see what happened, regardless of what you're looking, what kind of world theories you're looking at, is that we were actually hijacked by the logic, by essentially the ego logic, because the ego mind was supposed to serve the soul. That much we know. And it was so smart that it actually out-tricked the soul, so much so through separation and slicing and dicing and this whole separation consciousness, that now the entire kind of soul, our reality, we're entrapped in the left hemisphere. And now we can actually propel this forward into surrendering to the artificial intelligence, a new superiority. And now that is going to continue to sever us even more so. So I think as we're basically having to connect our logic with our kind of multidimensional awakening, which is all this stuff like that happens over here, right? It's good to not even talk about believing. I can't say that I believe this, and I can't say what I believe. I am belief systems are part of the Piscean age, because that was all about belief system, installing belief system, religions, everything that you refer to, whether that is from races to first class to third world to the division of the countries and the continents. It's all manufactured. It's all just in the last 2,000 years, and maybe not even. So what we believe, the measurement with what we are basically judging new information against, is so random. The one thing that I do know is that the images that we have seen from space are all CGI. They're all computer engineered. Who's to say if that's real? It could also be artificially created. We really
I think they said, right. They said that NASA said that they didn't have the technology to capture the whole Earth in one camera, so they had to like take a bunch of pictures and then seam them together, splice them together. which is surprising to me because, I have a photographer in my neighborhood who is capturing planets on his balcony at night from here, so obviously it's not as close as the pictures of Earth that we've seen, but if this guy can capture things in his camera, why can't NASA capture, a real picture of what the Earth looks like? And, and then there's the question of like, well, why are all the pictures of the moon black? Like there's no stars in the sky when they show us those pictures. There's a lot of questions, and I hear what you're saying about like not believing and not like saying I'm on this side or I'm on this side. I'm on this belief, or I'm a flat earther or I'm not a flat earther, because it plays into the duality that you were talking about in your book. And also, but so many people are waking up right now. Like we want to know the truth, right? Like we want to know what to believe.
You know what I love? Here's the thing. This is my favorite saying. Truth has legs, and it will be the last thing left standing. This is a multi-generational process. And to stay in inquiry, depending on how you want to pronounce it, is so important right now. I don't have a need, and this may also be an up-leveling for our listeners. If you feel still a need that you have to sort of like hold on to like this theory or that truth, or you're upset that this now turned out to not have been true, there is that may be an insecurity, or there may be still sort of like, a fear there. I have been able to really release any form of need for attachment to know right now what's what. And I love, and I actually enjoy from a creative, mind-boggling perspective to play with different lenses. And I have really also seen that depending on where the soul originated, and this would be something that we can discuss from an Akashic perspective, they may actually be in Earth School and they may have a whole other journey versus others, are finding themselves in the prison planet, what have you. We may also have different versions and different realities. There is there's two right now, very, very nice disclosure. Actually, I take it back, 3 very nice disclosure series going on Amazon Prime. Highly recommend them. The first one is Wheel of Time. That is actually showing you really, really what I'm talking about with these like huge, big eras, and then some form of recurrence that could potentially happen in form of the Antichrist or the resurrection, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a really good one. Upload, very good one to see what's going on the 3D timeline. And then the one that,
I saw that.
About the stargates, and exactly what you were just talking about, Shri, with like, could it be that there is some sort of gate and all of a sudden we're in the Middle Ages or we're in some other planet? The movie is called Night Sky, and that is exactly talking about these stargates, and it's fascinating. So we are getting all of the pieces, not to mention, of course, Matrix 3, Jupiter Ascending, which also talks about, they call them the Abrascas family, but it's very likely the Anunnaki that are, sort of, they have
the royal family
here as well. So, and in the end, it comes down to who are you contracting with, right? What are you expecting? It's a big, sort of calling. Is it the pulling or is it the calling, right? But I'm telling you, it's not a lot of middle ground here. There's not a lot of middle ground. We need to either be sort of like really going for what we deserve, what we want, right? Or we are getting kind of into this sort of like mushroom meat processing factory, right? Because it's like, whoa, what's going on here? I have some slides if you guys like to look at slides while we're talking through this.
And I want to, speaking of movies, I would love for you to share about the Tesseract. because, you know, that was in the
Yes.
Marvel
Oh
series
my God.
Endgame, or it might have been a Thor movie, but I think
Yes,
that's
let's
really
get into
interesting
that.
to talk about.
Alrighty,
Yes.
fasten your seatbelt.
Any
We have-
Avenger fans in the movie, in the audience? Any Avengers fans?
I love him. I myself am a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan. I love the Guardians
Me
of the Galaxy.
too. That's my favorite. And Doctor Strange, of course, because he's the
Of
timeline
course,
keeper.
yes. So
Yeah.
we can all agree that we don't need to know right now what's what. We don't know what's up. We don't know what's down. We don't know what's left. We don't know what's right. It's all a washer dryer cycle. We can enjoy it. We can enjoy it, and we can make a lot happen in what we want to see and what we want to experience, because the universe, the reality is very, very malleable. But there are two facts, right, that I think we can all agree on. Number one, the name of the game is consciousness, aka our vibration, right? And fact number two, we are in the end games. Oopsie, I must have dropped something in there. We're in the end games. Why are we in the end games? Because as you can see, I mentioned earlier, this separation consciousness that was this problematic thing from the very, very beginning. We have right now this slicing and dicing going on, like just as somebody who studied visual communication and arts, you know, so I have a master's in really kind of sort of reading images, and it doesn't take a rocket science to see that humans are being covered up right now, right? So we're kind of sort of like distorting the human image, and then at the same time robotics are being introduced with partial facial features, right? And so in a sense we're already at this point as a humanity at large what I call analog cyborgs, because they're all of you guys right now that are on the chat, you all have the phones and we're all like connected to our phones already. You know, if in 1 or 2 generations somebody is giving us the option, hey, are you getting tired of carrying around your phone? Would you like to have it, you know, in your palm or, you know, what have you? So many people will say yes, absolutely. Merge me with the machine. So this is already a desensitization campaign that's going on. Then, of course, you know, we had tons and tons of disclosures from the Olympics in Barcelona and London, but not many have seen actually what Madonna's music video was talking about in 2019. Not everyone is coming to the future. Not everyone is coming to the future. And then this whole play, which I'm especially, you know, sensitive to with the sort of Nazi Germany kind of sort of clothing and styles. You know, she was simulating in this like, you know, big video, you can watch it on YouTube, you know, a pandemic already. So, I mean, this is just really, really, I see it every day when I open up, you know, my Telegram channel. I see new images of sort of like these declarations to the subconscious mind of we're going to war, we are declaring the Hunger Games. I mean, when I saw that outfit, again, it's this like, you know, Germanic, you know, sort of fashion that is very, you know, for me, really disturbing. I knew that they announced the Hunger Games. And now come to find out, you know, it is the environmentally, you know, sound thing, you know, to eat those lab-grown meats and insect, and you know the agendas behind it and whatnot. But I mean, this is what you're watching right now. What you're really watching right now, if you're studying the communication, the mass manipulation and mass communication, you're really watching right now mass consciousness being primed and prepared to accept that, to want the burgers with the natural lab-grown protein. Now, I am going in a different direction. I'm going to the 5D Earth. This is like what I want to feel like, right? I want to be purified. I want to be in that harmonic place. I love this video so much. It has such a 5D energy. But the question is, how do we navigate through a world that looks totally distorted and that is annihilating us from our fellow family members, friends, and humans, and really kind of sort of bringing these distortions out. And these are the next slides that I have for you guys, which I wanted to give you a chance to add anything to it.
I love those frogs. They're hugging and they look so cute.
It looks so cute, right? Yes. So This is the 4D portal, right? So we're literally in the 4D portal. We can't go back to the old 3D world. There is just absolutely no way back to normalcy. I mean, that is that old, you know, and I've done my fair share of crying. That old world is gone. But we can dream about an even better world, and that is really the most important thing. I want to skip over these two guys real quick, but the fourth dimension, because you asked about the Tesseract, is literally this image right here, which is, of course, connected to the Alice of Wonderland parable. But this is for most people also what the world feels like now. We're like in a washer dryer cycle, right? Everything is upside down, inside out. You don't know what's what. You thought you had a plane ticket and you were going somewhere and you landed someplace else. I mean, it's just all right now completely up for who knows what's, right? And even as a timeline keeper and a timeline seer, who I truly, in all humbleness, am, it's a zoo. It's there's so many variables and so many factors that are playing, and that it is all based now on our inner knowing, our frequency, and what we want to sort of like call forth. That's really the only sort of sanity and determining factor that we have, because the fourth dimension, and like I said, we will be as a collective staying in the fourth dimension at least to 2027, if not 2030. We will be coming out by 2032. So if you got to really have a long, patient, endurant mindset to make it through this entropic corridor, because this is the Tesseract. This, my dear friends, is the Tesseract. The Tesseract is the fourth dimension. And if you remember in that very first Avengers movie, there was this blue sphere and a cube, and they said, Tesseract has awoken, right? And that's kind of like what got everything in motion. So what is it, Tree, if you watch this Tesseract, what is it that you see here? What would you describe? Is this
the one on your slide or the one in the movie?
The one right now here in the slide. Yes.
Okay. It's like a house of mirrors. It's like an illusionary place where, depending on what angle you're looking from, you can see a different thing. Sometimes it looks like a cube. Sometimes it looks like a hexagon or a pentagon. Sorry. So it's like constantly. And it's moving in and out of itself. That's interesting. I just saw it like morph. So it's like it's coming out and then swallowing itself again. So that's really interesting.
Yes, too. Very, very good.
What does that mean?
This is actually what I'm focusing on the most. So if you watch now to the right, you see the perfect cube. And then the cube is like, whoa, it's stretched and it becomes the ceiling. So a wall becomes the ceiling, becomes the floor. So it's like we were in the old cube, right? In the old third dimensional world. And now that is being stretched inside and out. Does that make sense? So this is literally how we are feeling right now. We're feeling stretched. We're feeling torn. We're feeling like this is all falling apart, and if we don't have that vision, yes, it is falling apart. It is not going any. This is also the shapeshifter realm. The fourth dimension was always the dimension out of which we were regulated. You cannot, like Einstein said, create a solution from the same level where the problem exists. So we, as whatever this experiment was, whether that's a globe, a prism planet, or a globe or firmament, right? We were always, in a sense, influenced through the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is a shapeshifter realm used by shapeshifters. We know who those are. And that's why you see a lot of people and celebrities glitching. We see cyborgs glitching. We see celebrities glitching. It's got to do with the
politicians.
Exactly.
Can I ask you a question about the fourth dimension?
Yes.
So have you heard that there's like a lower fourth and a higher fourth dimension, and that the lower fourth is where the darker beings reside, and a lot of what you were just talking about, the shapeshifters, and the higher fourth dimension is kind of like where we go when we astral travel, or as we're ascending into the fifth. Like, we have to pass through the higher fourth, obviously, to get to the fifth. But have you heard anything about that?
Yes, and I actually would agree with that. I would agree with that. Again, I am staying in inquiry, but my current perspective and understanding is that the lower fourth dimension is what we call the astral. And the astral is this, space where souls that didn't make it to the light, or had sudden, for example, accidents or trauma or shock, end up, stuck, and this is also where we
recycled.
Yep, it goes. We also have a lot of nasty, creepy, beings and demons and so on and so forth. Yes.
Right.
This has a lot to do with also, the drugs that we were served up, starting from LSD and then into other drugs that have opened fourth dimensional portals in people's beings and brought in a lot of entities that, ended up, getting free rides, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the fourth dimension has been Grand Central Station. It's been used for much mischief. Most of the more experienced, shamans and also energy healers, had to really either put a really good kind of protection, gear on to go through the fourth, or found their way with their guides and helpers to just jump right over, So the fourth dimension, I think we all have had our experiences with it. I also have heard through a remote viewing institute, I think it's called the Far Side, that they in the fourth dimension have seen kind of death traps where souls that were supposed to actually go to the light essentially got recycled into karma loops, etc. I don't know if you've heard that as well.
Yeah, I have, and I've heard that the lower fourth is where like basically the reptilians or the demons or whatever you want to call them, the dark beings, are hijacking souls, recycling souls. They can't get to the light. It's like this forced reincarnation that's happening in the fourth dimension. I've also heard that a lot of psychics, mediums, tarot card readers, they're getting their information from the lower fourth, because, not to say they're all bad, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying a lot of times etheric beings who reside in that space are willing to work with them to give them their telepathy or intuition or communication or information that's coming through. So it's really important that you're careful with what types of psychics or mediums you're working with, because they could be from there.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So the Tesseract, in the Avengers theory, is said to be, and remember this is your second takeaway. The Tesseract is the key to the timeline wars. So we know about the galactic wars, right? And there are timeline wars right now. Timeline wars, that have to do with the future of humanity, but not just humanity, but the entire Earth, Earth plane, whatever this is. Right? And so the Tesseract, how we navigate through this tumultuous birthing canal, right, is so vital. And again, we don't go to the golden age or heaven or Eden on earth or whatever you want to call it at wholesale level. Whether we are married, whether we are befriended or not, it's a vibrational game. We do need each other. We're all in this together, but it is really ultimately about how much can you really elevate yourself, because here's another way that you can think of the Tesseract. It is an elevator shaft. And just like in an elevator, you get out on the 5th floor or the 120th floor, what floor do you get out? Right? And then that determines also the reality, I believe, because we're at such an important junction in the evolution of our genealogy, even impacting your future potential for, I don't know how many millions of lives, or maybe you are graduating or whatever your soul is wanting. But this is all very, very, very important. And conversely, if you are on the 3D timeline and you're part of the collective kind of sort of, with the carbon humans, and we have to all sort of like, move into the simulation, inside of the simulation, right, into the metaverse, right, where we live essentially in shoe boxes, right, and we eat bugs, but we have the simulation of living glorious lives and having fantastic fitness bodies, then who knows, further down the road, you may not have enough of that ensoulment to boot yourself up to really have the individuation, because it's a hive mind program.
Right. So would you say that the Tesseract represents, I mean, we talked about the dark side of what it represents, but in the movie, it's made to look like quantum energy, or this like magical quantum device that is going to give us free energy and free food replicators and, all sorts of
and
magic.
Yes, it is. It has all of that potential. But remember, then they also had the timelines were hijacked, right? They were just, they were stolen again and what have you. That's the timeline war. Mm-hmm. So I would really say that there is a divine purpose also for this kind of separating the seed from the shaft. So it's so important right now for the formation of the future world that we live in, for the formation of the future itself, which heals the past, and also for the formation of your soul's unique genealogy, right? That we take charge and that we stay. I know we hear a lot about like, it's a movie, you're watching a movie. I myself am not all that excited about just watching a movie. I want to be the director, right? I want to be the director here. Mm-hmm. So I need to just quickly mute myself.
Before we switch gears completely, Dragon Rose is asking, does that include the plant medicines being used today? Going back to when you were talking about LSD and whatnot.
Say it again, love. Sorry, I had to mute myself for a moment.
Did you hear the question? No. Dragon Rose is asking. Okay. Dragon Rose is asking if back when you were talking about the LSD that was, introduced to us, creating holes in our aura, in our field, in our, timeline, basically. She's asking if plant medicines do the same thing.
Oh yeah, that is a tough question. What I would say is like 20 years or so ago, or long ago, if you did a plant medicine journey, it was kind of an enhancement, right? It opened up, our mind literally, right? But because we are already in the fourth dimension now, it's almost like a portal inside of a portal. It's like we really have, even with our best intentions, less of a kind of, I don't want to say the word control, but it is much more challenging. So personally, I steer clear of it, because I just don't. I think the complexity is already quite demanding, and I don't want to create any sort of raptures or what have you. So I would just really use great caution, because in a sense you can have your mind blown and opened up by just looking right now at what's going on every day. We don't need to necessarily have the
enhancement.
Plant medicine. And you could also say that the plants are also very challenged right now. They're very angry as well. To some degree, there's a lot of darkness that is being purged through nature, through our bodies. It's this ascension journey is not for the faint of heart. So I just would say you have to really ask yourself, what is it that you want to get out of? Just for sort of entertainment or just spiritual purposes alone, I would say it's more important for you to be the creator of your reality versus just having that expansion of the mind.
Right. And from the spiritual community or perspective, I should say, I believe that using any kind of mind altering substance, you're opening up your field to other entities. Like you can literally create holes in your auric field like Swiss cheese, and those openings can allow for lower vibrational entities to hook into your field and kind of become a hitchhiker. So, if you do it like once a year, probably not. But if you do it on a regular basis, the likelihood of that happening becomes much greater. Awesome. So guess what? We've already been together for over an hour. And that was an awesome first hour because we talked about so many interesting, Ascension timeline topics. But I would love to get into human design because that's a chunk too, as well as your soul purpose branding. So, because, as you know, I have a graphic design background and I've done branding for clients and you've done branding for clients. And I just think it's so awesome the way you do it. And bringing in the human design element, Sabine did my human design chart, which is like an astrology chart on steroids because there's so many more levels to it. So I won't even try to explain it. I would love for you to give the audience your summary of explanation of what human design is and then how you integrate it into the work you do.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I do have slides again. Do you guys love the slides? I love the slides. So it's not just the birds, where we can, it stimulates, by the way, the integration between the left and the right brain. So yes, absolutely. Let's dive
absolutely. And really quickly, I just want to say, if you're liking this program, please like this video. Both on YouTube and Facebook. And also, if you haven't yet, please consider becoming a subscriber so you can stay attuned to what we're doing here on this channel. So thank you so much. Take it away, Sabine.
All right.
Let me pull up your slides.
And yes, go ahead and bring it up. And so basically, when people ask me, what do I do for a living? Yes, you could call it branding, but it's inside of the branding process. It's really about blowing people's minds. And with that, I mean the left hemisphere to connect with the right hemisphere. So this just gives you a picture what that looks like. And then just real quick, this is the architecture of the fifth dimension. And this is where we're headed. So coming out of that fairly artificial fourth dimensional wormhole, Tesseract birthing canal, this is the Tesseract squared and check this out. This is 60, 70, 80, and you can keep going until, I don't know, the 111th dimension. And it will all be just more and more and more and more refined. Doesn't that look like, like that's the real architecture of our reality? See, and this is where we're coming home to. However, the journey, and this brings us to the human design, is quite something, because as you all are aware of, we live in a duality, and that duality is connected to the two-strand DNA. There is an astronomical difference between having 2 strands and 12 strands. With the 12-strand DNA, half of the the strands are not your individual ones. They're essentially interconnecting you with other star system, other planetary system. So this is when we're really, really becoming galactic integrated integrals. Versus the 2-strand DNA really brings us back to that checkerboard that I showed you earlier, the black and the white, and the black and the white. You're right. No, I'm wrong. Or, vice versa. You're wrong. I'm right. So that duality, that polarity, it is so primitive. That's not how nature works. It's not how life works. And we have, from my understanding, truly the 10 strands they've been truly physically severed from us, and they're like laying around like cables essentially in the right hemisphere, like cables disconnected. Wow. Imagine right now a server room, and you had this wiring, this very beautiful complex wiring, and now you just have junk. You just have electronic garbage laying around. That's a little bit like how I see it. But the 12-strand DNA needs to be interconnected also with the 12 chakras, because it's about the voltage of energy that we run. It's about the circuitry that we run it on. And it's also that connects with the earth circuitry, that connects with the chakra systems of the earth. You see, we don't need to be accelerating this, because back to your question about plant medicine, anything that right now that gets you too far out of your own comfort zone or too far out of your own league, you may actually kind of take yourself out of the game. Slow and steady, right, is the new fast. Slow and steady is the new fast. Because your evolution is interconnected with the evolution of others and Gaia herself, etc., etc. And so I mentioned the word genealogy quite a bit. Writing your own story, being the director of your own future, right? This brings you back front and center. My goodness, you are just such a talkative four-legged tonight. It brings us back into
both of our children. Both of our children are laughing. I apologize. Come here. Thank you so much. You stay here. Come. Okay. My kid was knocking on the door. Your cat's meowing.
Exactly. Oh my God, we wouldn't want to live without them, right? So I'm comparing right now the DNA for a corn and the DNA as we're looking at it through this very, very complex system of human design. So human design and Gene Keys is an incredibly amazing way to figure out, because we have to get a new map, right? Coming out of that belief system programming, right? That only goes so far. Personality tests and all of that stuff is not really helpful either. We really need to have truly our own unique map. So the way we're doing this is by basically diving deep into this human design system, which is really gifted. It's been gifted to us, so that we can navigate into the Aquarian age, to remember really, really who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. And it is synthesizing the 5 wisdom schools that we have known here in this earth plane. First and foremost, astrology. It synthesizes the planetary constellations, the tree of life, the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the 64 human genomes, the chakra system, and the DNA neutrinos. And with these 5 systems that we have all known, but they were kind of independent from each other. And now imagine having them all kind of coexisting here. That is giving you just an incredible access to really integrated knowledge. Now, I want to also say many people think that Human Design and Gene Keys was just recently downloaded. And while that is true that it was kind of in that interconnected way recently, through Ra, fairly recently in the 80s, kind of conceived, it's actually a it's all based on very ancient wisdom, because all of those 5 core wisdom schools have been around for thousands of years. And the slide that I'm showing you right now, those are the 64 hexagrams that are part of the I Ching, the Book of Changes, and that's 5,000 years old. It's one of the oldest books that we still have. Obviously, we've had older books in the Library of Alexandria, but that has disappeared. But I'm just saying the I Ching is a combination of a solid line and an open line, which is the equivalent of a 0 and a 1. And this is what we're looking at here, are the building blocks of human consciousness. Now, I have discovered the I Ching when I was 13. So the I Ching has been around for all of my life in this lifetime, but I also know that the I Ching has been around for many of my lives. I am tapping into, in my own soul genealogy, I'm tapping into creator consciousness. And, there's just a familiarity with these symbols that is just really, it's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing. So,
what's interesting is like the bars look like 0s and 1s. They look like they look like AI language or something.
Indeed, right? So this is how I want to kind of introduce you guys to human design. I want to, it's not like it's trending like crazy, so it's not this trending thing that you have to have a reading or a chart or whatever. I'm saying we are rediscovering our maker DNA, like who has designed us and for what purpose were we designed, and were we the designers, right? Were we the architects of this experiment, right? So I mean, this is literally like all truly part of this awakening journey, where we're taking the wheel, we're getting behind the driver's seat, right? We're not kind of constantly waiting and waiting for another shoe to drop, or waiting for some other, authorities, or, to make decisions on our behalf. We're taking actually the wheel into our own hands and are stewarding this. And these are my 2 teachers. So I didn't study directly with Ra's Jovian archive. I studied with an offshoot, if you so will, through my beloved teacher, John Parkin from the UK, and his best friend, Richard Rudd, who is the founder of Gene Keys. Gene Keys, by the way, is a different proprietary name, essentially for the same thing that we're talking about with human design gates. And it all goes back to the ancient I Ching. They just had to name it different things so that they wouldn't end up in trademark wars. So just so you know, it's essentially the same.
I was wondering about that.
It's essentially the same.
Yeah. You gave me this book.
Exactly. Yes. You wanted to stop. Yes. Here we go. Yes. Oh, you can't see it. Yes, the Gene Keys. Yes.
Why can you see me but not the book? There we go. Can you see it now?
Love that book.
You gave me this book, and I was wondering that very question, like, how is it different than human design? is it like the building block or the Bible or the, the deeper understanding of how human design or what it was based on besides the I Ching?
So the 64 gene keys correspond with the 64 human design. They call them gates, and the gates are like kaleidoscopic filters that are literally formatting our human genomes. So the 64 gene keys, the 64 gates, the 64 hexagrams that the ancient Taoists, used to determine someone's destiny, are all essentially pointing to our human genomes. Come to find out, we were always told, we were told all of my life that the genetics are fixed, right? You can't change them. They're set in stone, right? Come to find out that's not true. And genes are being turned on and turned off. Right now, we are actually experiencing that certain genomes are being turned off through the gene therapy experiments that many are partaking in. And so that their genes are being turned off, and vice versa. We can turn genes on. And in fact, I am proposing that we must turn genes on. Because when we turn genes on, we can make synaptic connections and take some of those like old wiring, and before you know it, it kind of reassembles itself, just like how we have in an entropic system more and more and more kind of destabilization and devolution, if you so will. We have self-optimization going on, and this is exactly what happens when we're massaging some of these gene keys, human design gates, human genomes. It's literally like I'm going in there and I'm massaging the code of your original blueprint. And I'm using all of my, like I said, the creative zest, but also the multidimensional kind of sacred space, if you so will. So it's not just a reading where, many people are right now geeking out on the mechanics of human design. Is that potentially another indoctrination? For some, yes. For me, I don't use it like that. I'm about soul liberation. I'm all about you. Live your soul, live your purpose, know who you are, know why you're here, and let's rock it, right? Let's have fun and let's do some really awesome stuff with it that makes you happy, right? Forget about, success according to external terms. It's all about your own inner fulfillment. And when you know what your pearl is, and and this is how the gene keys come in, and I'm blending them both with my human design blueprint readings. The gene keys give you actually activation sequences. So they actually show you what a shadow journey looks like, a recipe for misery. And they also show you what a blissful life looks like. And we can actually take a look at some of the slides to show that.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah, that's so cool that you said that, we can turn off our genes and turn them back on, because that's one of the things that comes up in my healing sessions is actually resetting your divine blueprint and putting all of your cells back into divine order, almost like going through a particle accelerator where, we got fragmented, right, through life, trauma, chemicals, toxins, radiation, whatever, and you can literally put them back into perfect divine order. So your soul can remember your divine blueprint as you were when you were born. So that's pretty cool that you have this kind of information in your information as well as quantum healing.
I love it. Yes, I have to say that it has really made it super precise and fast, to really get to the essence of a person, where before it was much more of a discovery process. And this is the beauty of this, of incorporating the system into a bigger context, such as, hey, let's be in business with your purpose. Let's get you a brand that kind of positions you already. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But I did wanted to show you what a shadow journey looks like and what a blissful journey looks like. So out of the 64 human genomes, aka gene keys, aka human design gates, right, or hexagrams, whatever those names are, we're right now looking at gene key 7. Okay, gene key 7. And in the shadow, do you see what that red line, that red word is? It's division. So if you have the gene key 7 in any of your gates right now, and I'm just talking about now about your birth chart, right? We all are moving through these gates. We are feeling gene key 7 from time to time, depending on certain transits of planets. But in your birth chart, if a person has gene key 7 activated through a planetary heavenly body in their chart, in the shadow, they will, from childhood on, feel the division. They will feel the divide between the mother and the father, or the siblings, or the teacher, or what have you, on and on and on. And it's a painful, painful thing, constantly feeling that division. When you elevate yourself from that shadow, then the next frequency, because every gene key has a particular sort of sequence with which you can resurrect yourself. So if you have gene key 7 and you have it in the shadow, it's not a happy life. But if you can then basically say, oh, wait a minute, I see what people are separated from each other. I see where they're disconnecting. I can give guidance. Now, actually seeing the division is useful. Would you not agree with that? It's useful.
Absolutely.
And then out of the guidance, you actually then bring virtues. And virtues is one of the highest heavenly embodiments, because a virtue is actually a value. It's a value-based, it's a characteristic of heavenly traits. I'm not explaining it right, but a virtue is like you live by example. So division is teaching you to become whole and to be a holistic guide, and then in fact even a virtuous person. And this is an evolutionary hero's journey inside of just one key. You can see over here the codon ring is the codon ring of union. Of course, it's in the codon ring of union, right? And there it's in a particular circuitry. It could be part of a channel. It has programming partners. So it's just an amazing thing to dive into these gene keys. We have, for example, here gene 9, inertia. It's in the old I Ching, it was called the taming of the small, the infinitesimal. and ultimately it leads to invincibility. Isn't this amazing, right? Yeah.
So inertia doesn't it mean like lack of movement, or lack of divine will, or lack of motivation?
The definition of inertia is actually a physiological, emotional overwhelm, where you are so bombarded by seeing so many small details. So a person that has gene key 9 in their birth profile sees, the saying, you don't see the forest for the trees?
Yes.
That's gene key 9.
Because they're so focused on the tiny things that they can't see the big picture.
Exactly. It's constantly like, the detail. So it has to do with almost like a dragon rider energy, where you have to become so determined to tame all of these little things that can absolutely, kind of be your Achilles
frozen.
Yes.
Yeah, it can make you frozen, right? With overwhelm, you're just like stuck.
Indeed. The power of the infinitesimal. So this is really why you tame the small, and ultimately a person that has the gene key 9 is they're invincible. They have superhero powers because they have to overcome this debilitating inertia. So this is just an example. Here's gene key 48, feeling inadequate, and then you're, of course, the wisdom keeper. So this is essentially how this works. You can think of these gene keys, gates, hexagrams as kaleidoscopic filters. And imagine now I'm having Pluto or Saturn or Venus or Mars or Jupiter or what have you shine through these filters, these kaleidic filters, and format your consciousness. That's in a sense what's happening. And of course, it's all about the soul's expression. The soul is choosing, the personality side. It's bringing in, the design side. And then I help a person by really understanding who they really are at core level, at soul level, how to put that first and foremost into their brand, so that they can create a business model that's based also on, for example, their type. As a projector, you would want to do these things very, very differently than a generator, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is essentially what I really represent, and that is soul purpose wealth. And when I say I represent it, I truly also, in that fourth dimensional tumultuous birthing canal, I wake up every day and I say to the universe, you owe me, peace and prosperity as a birthright. And I want to have more abundance because I have wonderful dreams that I want to materialize. So it's got to do with that kind of quality. And of course, that was also confirmed in my own human design. So the brand is taking all of those things that are actually hidden, that are unconscious. It's like the iceberg, right? And putting them, literally converting that into this brand that has that magnetic and perhaps also a little mystic and mysterious attraction factor. And then brand is, of course, at the center of everything, right? All of those like left brain problems that we have, like what colors should it be, what's my marketing strategy, and so on and so forth. The brand is essentially giving an answer to all of these complicated things and unifying them. And then people go from having marketing pages like this to having brands like that. And right. This can happen literally in a matter of just a few weeks. But it is not.
Right. Although those other ones seem to be effective as well, but in a totally different way. They attract a totally different audience.
Yeah. It's a marketing funnel.
The marketing funnel.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those were essentially the slides that I have prepared for you. But that's essentially what I do in my branding process. I bring first and foremost, I bring a person home to themselves, right, and then from there to their essence.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for all the wonderful slides. That was really helpful, I think, for a lot of the audience members watching, because it really painted a picture. And I wanted to ask you if you could talk a little bit more about your soul purpose branding and soul purpose wealth, and maybe even touch on some of the retreats that you do to help people kind of come online, come into their divine soul purpose, really get clarity on what really it is they're trying to do in this lifetime.
I love it. Yes. So you all remember the Galactic Harmonic Portal that we went through, the Galactic Harmonic Convention in 2012. During that portal between 12/12/2012 and 12/21/2012, I was literally getting the download that I'm here for soul purpose wealth. I had already coined my soul purpose branding business, but that soul purpose wealth piece came in, and I took it to heart. And since 2013, because I was very, very much in my genealogy, I was poverty. I had severe poverty imprints. Let's just put it that way. I was definitely undervaluing and really just putting ceilings on myself, and really had to really love myself more to really actually be a match to the abundance, to the wealth, to the opportunities that actually my heart was truly yearning for. And so when that soul purpose wealth piece came in as a gift from the divine, right, from whoever gifted it to me, Thank you. Maybe it was my higher self, my higher soul. That really gave me the, I don't know, the drive, right, to really ask for more and step up. And so I'm really thrilled to say that I run a sustainable, visionary, lifestyle-based 6-figure plus business since 2013. And many years I've had, over $200,000 of soul-based coaching income, and really been able to support also an assistant. So since over 10 years, I am supported by this beautiful goddess, and vice versa. I support her and her 3 children through the sustainability that we have by doing very important work in the world, which is helping people figure out who they are. That's the soul, why they're here. That's the purpose. And let's be in business with your soul and purpose so you can get paid for fulfilling your mission. And one of the big kind of sort of passions inside of my business container is to host international transformational retreats. So sometimes they're soul purpose wealth retreats, sometimes they're council gatherings, to help us steward, wisely through that 4th dimensional birthing canal. I've gone a number of times to Costa Rica with about 30 people, and also Thailand. This is from a 2019 journey to a 5-star retreat. Woo! In Thailand, that was an up-leveling experience. We rented this catamaran and really uplifted ourselves. That was a feminine wealth retreat. And then just recently in April 2022, I'm actually going to do this more regularly. I'm doing these Activate Your 5D Life retreats. These are shorter weekend retreats where people can come and really go on a deep dive into their genealogy using gene keys and human design. And then whether or not they want to have the brand and the business mentoring, that is for later to decide, but just a weekend retreat, like a time out where they can really dive deep into their genealogy is so much fun.
Do you do their human design chart before the retreat?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do their gene key profile and the human design chart, and then we actually go through the gene key activation sequence, which is the genius activation sequence, and also the Venus sequence. So we're literally stepping it out. We're literally enacting it. We're literally enacting first the shadow version, so we can identify where our sabotage patterns are, and then turning the light on, switching them, literally eclipsing the shadow, eclipsing the dark inside of us, and turning it on. Switching it into the light. I think what people don't sometimes not understand is that the shadow actually serves the light. It gives the light the power. I can see that now in through the work with the gene keys. It's like if we ignore the shadow and we want to run away, then we're actually not specifically shining our brilliance. It's actually, like I showed you earlier with the keys, like if you master inertia, you get to that invincibility. You get to be so dialed in and tapped in. It's amazing. So yeah, that's a really big joy.
You can't sweep it under the rug. The shadow needs to be honored, acknowledged, and light shown on it. So you can ascend.
And I'm helping as a byproduct. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, here's Leslie, my beloved. And it's so beautiful as a byproduct of the soul purpose work that I help people with. Many are falling in love with their soulmates, or finding their soulmates, or they're having, babies or whatever. There's so much wonderful kind of creation juice that ends up getting produced. That because sometimes when a woman or a man wants to have a business, and we're tapping into the vision. We find out like, wow, gee, they don't want to be single anymore, right? How do we incorporate that? So we want to create a business model also that lets you have a life and have a family. And so for me, it's all about the balance. It's all about the sustainability. I never wanted to grow just for 7 figures so I could brag about that. I rather live a 7-figure lifestyle by having lots of time, being able to travel one or 2 months out of the year, and so on and so forth. So this is essentially, what you can kind of, come to me for. You can have human design soul activations, and you can also have, the soul purpose brand, which is the emerge. But for everyone, I really want to say, like, who wins, know who you are, don't be the go down rabbit holes, but don't be the rabbit, be the turtle. And I have a gift page for everyone that is soulpurposewealth.com, Cherie. And there you have discounts for human sessions, and also masterclasses on human design and all of that good stuff, and some welcome information that makes it easy for you to schedule a discovery session with me.
Wonderful. Thank you for putting that page together. You guys, it was made just for you, my audience. Yes. So thank you so much for being here. Before we go, because we still have 20 minutes left, I want to talk about Starseeds. Yeah, is that okay with you, Sabine?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. Okay. We've got to throw Starseeds in the mix. I mean, that's just so fun. So I guess my question would be, you work with a lot of Starseeds. You see a lot of people coming online. Part of your soul's mission is helping people come online and awaken to their fullest potential, both energetically, physically, financially, all of those areas. What message would you give to Starseeds right now in this crazy matrix shift and timeline hijacking that we're going through? Because there's a lot of Starseeds out there who feel a little bit discouraged. I mean, I feel like many of them are like, okay, I'm here to help. I'm here to bring humanity online and to help people evolve. And then there's those who are just like, why am I here?
Yeah.
So do you have some parting wisdom for the Starseeds who might be watching this show?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So firstly, I want to say thank you to all of the Starseeds that have gone on this unbelievable journey. I mean, we're all as souls, on a hero's journey for sure in this, dimensional place, and trying to uplift this whole earth plane, right? As we're uplifting ourselves because of that's how that goes. But Starseeds have an even more heroic journey. And the reason for that is because they're cloaked. When you are a Starseed, you actually have to cloak yourself. And I don't know if all of you guys may realize that, but if you're a Starseed and you come in to essentially blow this thing up and turn it into, something much brighter and better, then you can't come in, basically, when I'm saying coming in, I mean incarnating, basically showing all of your cults, because in the fourth dimension, you'll be taken out. So most of the Starseeds have to actually cloak themselves. So they're literally under a crust of some sort of hardship, right? So they're coming in sometimes into the darkest kind of family lineages. They can have like horrific abuse, oh my gosh, I'm saying, it's like, how do you cloak yourself? Yes. Cloak yourself by experiencing a ton of shadow and darkness, and then having to sort this out, like, okay, that's me, that's who I am at my essence, and this is all the shadow and the trauma that I've experienced, but that's not me, right? And so as we are now on this awakening journey, and you don't have to feel so kind of, I don't know, out of the norm or beaten down or what have you. I mean, it's an actual empowerment. It's an empowering time for Starseeds. They're all popping up right now. But I think that's the first thing that I want to say is the acknowledgement that most have come through some really, really challenging first pulse of their lives. Would you not agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of starseeds choose families that have trauma, hardships in some way, whether it's physical, mental, financial, whatever, because it helps us wake up faster. Like, we're here to do something.
Yes.
We're here on a mission, and we kind of need to go through those traumas to wake up, snap out of this, reality that we're in.
Yes.
So that, and also that trauma makes us want to help other people. It makes us want to give back because of the empathy and the compassion that we feel for others going through it.
It's so true, right? So initially the trauma is this avalanche that is designed to drown you, right? To drown you just in suffering and pain, and I can't take this, and get me out of here, right? And then, but then you, when you can kind of see it from that other perspective, it serves you so well. And I'm not here to belittle, the brutalities that can happen here in this earth plane. It's astounding when you're really in that 4D conversation. The stuff that you hear is just outrageous. And yet Starseeds kind of volunteered and said, okay, somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's going to take the bullet, right? So first and foremost, I really want to acknowledge all of those heroic Starseeds, and really remind you that how you have come, but whatever train wreck journey that was, right? It is not at all, defining your future, except for how heavy duty and dark it was. That's about how bright it has to be in order to balance out again. So you have amazing expectations, like amp up your expectations. And then really, and this is why the gene keys and the human design comes in, you got to have a map. This is the second most important thing that I want to say to Starseeds. You have to have a map. First and foremost, I'm a big fan of Akashic Records, reflections, like find out what star system you come from, where did you originate, for what purpose were you originally, created, because that is the superpower that you need to at some point tap into, and you need to know exactly why you're here, and then kind of unfold your 7D, 8D, 12D kind of sort of magic, right? But without that map, it's like you're bound to go back and forth like a yo-yo to that old trauma. And that is painful. I don't think that is even more pain than having endured whatever the journey was.
Do you think that part of our amnesia happened because of all the damage that was done to Gaia, like all the portal disruptions and all of the hijacking that's taking place here on the planet? Or do you think that it was just inherently part of our journey to have amnesia and then wake up at some point, or get help and get an Akashic Records reading, or have a starseed coach, or have a starseed reading or something like that? Because it doesn't seem fair. Like, I feel like we should have known earlier.
I know. I know.
Like, you were so blessed to have this experience at 17. Like, who does that? Who gets that awesome opportunity?
I was blessed by having had a lot of memory that came through, even though I consider myself a starseed, and also, believe me, I have been I've been traumatized plenty. So but it's an excellent question. I believe, and I actually don't like to use the word believe, but I know that the amnesia is part of the condition that of this incarnation plane right here. Think about the fluid in the uterus that we are sort of like, growing in for 9 months. Isn't that called the amniotic fluid? Amniotic.
fluid.
I'm sorry, but I mean,
Oh my God.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I have
That's
more
funny.
questions than I have solid answers. But have you ever wondered if I wanted to incubate a human, would I want to be a good soldier, to be a good kind of worker bee, you know, to be smart enough to do the job, but not smart enough to ask the bigger questions? Would I then put them into basically a fluid that brainwashes? I probably would. So I believe
It's
that
very
this
possible.
brainwashing is a standard thing in this current thing. It's not going to be a standard thing where we're going. 5D requires you to know who you are, why you're here, where you're going, and all of that stuff. So as Starseeds, looking almost like religiously, you know, at the different aspects, get different readings. Don't just get one Akashic Records reading, have it verified, right? And then I love also the human design and Gene Keys map because it gives you the operating manual to the body vehicle. It doesn't tell you necessarily so much where you're from. So I like to combine astrology readings, Akashic readings with the human design, because the human design gives you kind of like the manual, right? This is how you drive your car. This is how you drive your Merkaba. And then you can actually have some fun and do some really superwoman, superman kind of stuff, which is really why you're here, right?
Right. I love that you said that starseeds come in cloaked, because I have felt like that. I have felt like I've been cloaked for so long. I can't even tell you. Like, I feel invisible sometimes. And I know I'm not, I know I have tons of friends and, people who see me, but I still feel invisible sometimes. It's such a fascinating, like, duality or reality to live in. So I wonder if there's other starseeds out there who feel cloaked or invisible.
Yeah. Well, I have cloaked myself voluntarily. I would say that I continue to cloak myself because we're not out of the woods yet.
Right.
So for me, starseeds have this multidimensional access point, right? And when you really kind of come into that, it doesn't matter if anybody knows you. It doesn't matter if you have followers. None of these like 3D kind of checklists apply to starseeds. The starseed is its own kind of universe essentially, and to me, whatever you resolve inside of yourself, I mentioned it earlier, try to really create the world according to your blueprint and go for it, right? And then the key is like, don't create something that is a nightmare. We all live in some person's nightmare here, right? So how do we get out of it? We dream louder, we dream bigger, we dream better, because these agendas that they have on the 3D timelines, they have been dreaming their nightmare stuff for probably before we were even born. We need to really tap into that untapped potential and get busy dreaming the future into our reality.
I think that's a really good message, as a closing statement, is to envision the ideal future that you want, to bring it into fruition, to dream it, make it happen. Because I feel like what you said earlier was you can either design your life or you can let it be designed for you.
And
so
we've
really
had all
point.
this thing about like we need to have that social media footprint, right? And then it actually is a carbon footprint, that is being used for us. So these footprints, I have a mixed bag for me. I have essentially zero social media footprint. because of this cloaking, because of the fact that I don't want to have eyeballs on me. I please, I have no use for fans. I don't want to have followers. Don't follow me, follow your own map, right? So inside of our marketing mechanisms, and the way we're using the media are already weird distortions built in that make me, I believe, rightfully uncomfortable. And at the same time, I am an entrepreneur. I am, looking for new alignments and connections, but I'm trying to avoid as much as I can the digital footprint stuff because I, they're bots and they're literally energetic kind of, sort of like things that every time you peek out, there is something that ends up, noticing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody probably has a database written about them on some gigantic server somewhere, because we're giving them all the information about ourselves through Facebook, certainly, but all of the social medias that are,
True. We are emoting. We're emoting on TikTok, right? So it's very true. Now we have a digital copy in the artificial metaverse. And so the more you emote, the more you put out there, the more you animate,
the more they can clone you. The more they can clone you.
That exists for all of us, as creepy as that is. But we also have that higher blueprint. So it is for a while kind of like a side-by-side kind of race. But again, that's why this is so important, really, to kind of get into the creator energy. Because I really believe this new paradigm depends on what we are calling forth and how we are also saying no to the calling. We have a birthright here that needs to be initiated. And in your birth, one of the things that I do every day, I initiate my birthright. Whatever that sounds like for you, find that out. What really is the core thing that you incarnated for, right? That you jump through unbelievable hoops for. What is that? And then initiate that reward for that. Expect that. And because the universe really is so valuable right now. It is in a grand modification, and I don't believe everything is set in stone yet. We have a lot of influence. One person, that vibrates, where's my scale of consciousness? One person that vibrates at the frequency of 500 is vibrationally outweighs 750,000 people. A person that's at the frequency of courage, right, is as much as 65,000 people. So don't look too much
That's
right
huge.
now for followers. If you have many, if many of you are cloakers, like Shri and me, don't worry right now about those followers and whatnot. Like follow your bliss, follow your map, and then you will be able to actually rise your frequency and then clear out the distortions of really lots and lots and lots of people. Just one soul.
Oh, I found it. I have it. This is a different one than yours, but I'm trying to figure out how I can share it if you want me to share it. Oh, I found the one you have.
Yes, I would love
it. Yeah. I don't know how to upload an image. I think I just can only share my screen. So 1 second. Let me pull it up over here.
And then I'm going to take a look at some of your comments here. Oh, Andromeda, thank you so much. Silicon beings, yes, silicon beings, yes, indeed. Excellent show. Thank you so much. Oh my God, Dragon Rose, you were there from the very beginning and punctual. Wow, yes. I so appreciate that. That's amazing. Wow.
That's my dear friend Linda. She's an awesome being.
Lovely.
So I have the scale of consciousness up if you want to kind of say that again, because I think if people can see those numbers, it really helps to lock that in.
Yeah, this is actually fascinating. So what I was basically saying, see 500. So the fifth dimension starts at 500. Okay. And by the way, from 400 to 500 or 300 to 400, etc., etc. I want to say it is just like with earthquakes, like from a 6.0 earthquake to 7 point, it's a times 1,000 or something like that. So this is huge. Like the jumps are really tectonic.
Yeah, so it jumps exponentially.
Exactly.
Right.
So don't think of it as from 250, which is neutrality, or 200 courage, right, to 500 is just double. No, it's actually it's like, I think, times 1,000 from every step. But I obviously don't have it solidly right now. But what I do know is that a person vibrating at love is the equivalent of 750,000 people from, in suffering or whatever, wherever they are in the shadow here. And a person that vibrates at courage can offset 65,000 people in suffering. And it's interesting. We have we're studying quantum healing right now with people that are using multiple scalar technologies to actually measure the collective. And in 2019, the collective here in the United States was vibrating at the level of courage, 200. Do you guys want to take a guess where it's at now in the United States?
What year was that?
This was before COVID in 2019. Anyhow,
I would say 100.
No, 75.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. So the collective in America is grieving. And the collective in some of the Commonwealth, is even lower, 50, apathy, manipulation. So yeah, this is the scale of consciousness. This is definitely a tool to use as well. The third dimension essentially plays out right around 150, and then when you come to courage, from courage to 500, you're in the fourth dimension, which is the dimension of the mind, and then the fifth dimension is love and above. But we have been playing the shadow games for as long as we've been around. We have more variations of lower emotions than we have joy emotions. We have not enough experience yet about those blissful, joyful emotions. They're yet to be discovered.
Well, we have fleeting moments of them, right? We have fleeting moments, I would say.
We do.
Yeah. But we're not at the place where we're sustaining them yet,
And we also really have to eclipse the shadow. We have to bring it inside of ourselves and then turn it into those light frequencies. And that's actually a beautiful job. It's a beautiful assignment, not something to run away from.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Well, this has been such a fun conversation and amazing show. And thank you to everyone who stuck around for the full 2 hours. I know that's a long time. I really appreciate your time. And Sabine, I loved having you on. Thank you for being such an excellent guest. Look, we're getting lots of fun comments now.
That's so wonderful. Wonderful.
Says, thank you so much for doing this. And Lynn says, wow, that was a very useful visual. I'm glad I could find it that quickly. I was surprised how quickly I could find it. But we talked about this before because of the work that I do with quantum psionics. I use a very similar scale system. So that it's very interesting to me as well. And then Andromeda Maria Winfred said the cacophony of COVID, fear mongering will fall to rise higher and higher colors of time.
I see that as well. It's almost like this is how the dark serves the light by really showing us light workers what we're made out of, right? We're titanium. We're just getting warmed up here. I want to say thank you so much, Cherie, for your courage and willingness to host the Ascension sessions and I love that you had 2 hours. I love that we could kind of sort of dive deeper and not just go surface level. I think it's so beautiful that you're bringing people together, that you're asking powerful questions, and that we're in this conversation and discovery together. And it's been an honor to also reactivate your interview series, like I said, for this
Yes.
winter and fall that we're going into. And thank you so much. I'm so honored to know you as a friend and also as a divine ally.
Oh, really, thank you so much, Sabine. That's really beautiful. I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I'm so glad that you were kind of like my first foray back onto the screen, because I did take quite a hiatus there. Much needed. I think we were all going through so much, coming out of 2021, and, I had a big move, and it was just, the adjustment was way more than I thought, dark night of the soul, like everything happened. So I'm really glad to be able to be here tonight. And I loved your presentation, and you did such a great job. So I'm sorry it took us a year, but I'm so grateful we did it. So thank you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Be in touch.
Everyone, don't forget to check out Sabine's website, soulpurposewealth.com/Cherie, and you could book some kind of session with her for like a consultation, or to figure out what you want to do, or maybe a human design session.
Yes, discovery sessions are always free.
Reading with her.
Exactly.
It was amazing. So it's a lot of fun, and you will learn a lot. That's for sure. Yeah.
That's funny.
That was awesome. All righty. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, other than just true gratitude, and also really just like have fun, have fun. This is definitely not the easiest passage, but man, is this exciting. You think of yourself as an Avenger or a Guardian of the Galaxies, I'm having a blast. I have to say, I'm really enjoying this quite a lot. It's bringing out the worst in the world and the best in us, right? That's how I look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an interesting time to be here on the planet. So yes, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video and share it with your friends. Please check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Telegram. We even have a Telegram group, and you can learn more about what we do here on the show at CherieAriano.com, and about a lot of other things. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. Have a beautiful night and be well, and sending you all many blessings. Thank you, Sabina.
Bye.
Good night.